The void's edge wasn't the worst dive on the Cygnus drift, but it was close. Tucked into the grimy outer ring of the station, it was a magnet for mercenaries, smugglers, and beings looking to vanish. The atmosphere inside was a thick fog of exotic vapors and the clashing smells of a dozen species intoxicants. Kaelen Voss wiped down the bar, his motions smooth and economical. 3 years of pouring drinks for the galaxy's dregs had taught him how to be invisible while remaining just visible enough to earn his keep. His simple white tunic, neatly fastened, and dark trousers were spotless, a stark contrast to the grime around him. "Another round for the Zillock at table 4, rumbled Grath, the tavern's 4-armed proprietor. "And try to look alive, Voss. Your 1,000-yard stare is bad for business." Kaelen gave a short nod, his green eyes remaining flat and cold. Smiling had left his repertoire a long time ago. Not since Velok's prime, not since the Legion. He loaded a tray with bubbling green liquids and moved through the crowd, feeling the usual curious stares. Humans were a rarity this far out, seen by most as either novelties or threats. The night droned on until the tavern's main doors slammed open, rattling every glass on the shelf. The bar fell quiet. A humanoid female strode in, her azure blue skin glowing under the dim lights. Her silver hair was cut short, framing a face that was simultaneously alien and devastatingly beautiful. The tight-fitting black synth leather she wore did very little to hide her athletic figure. "Well, look what the nebula spat out," Grath muttered. "Lyra Nix, just what I needed." Kaelen had heard the rumors about the infamous Zylithian. A smuggler, a bounty hunter, or just a high-class troublemaker, depending on the storyteller. The only consistent part was her reputation for chaos. "Hey, Grath!" she shouted, her voice carrying a melodic accent that made her sound perpetually amused. "Your strongest Krellian ale. And if you water it down this time, I'm using your arms for target practice." Grath nudged Kaelen. "You serve this one. She has a weakness for pretty faces. Maybe she'll break you instead of my furniture." Kaelen approached her table, setting down a glass and pouring the dark liquid with an unshakable hand. "Krellian ale," he said, his voice flat. Lyra looked up, her deep blue eyes widening slightly as she took in his human features. Well, aren't you an exotic specimen for this part of the galaxy?" She leaned forward, the scent of expensive perfume and cheaper liquor washing over him. "What's your name, human?" "Kaelen," he replied, already turning to walk away. "Hold on." Her hand shot out, her grip like a steel trap on his wrist. "I'm not finished admiring the view." The tavern had grown quiet again, the regulars sensing a show. Kaelen stood perfectly still, his muscles coiling under his tunic. Old, dangerous reflexes began to stir. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice low. Lyra grinned, revealing teeth that were just a fraction too sharp. "Just curious. What's a human doing this far out? Running from someone?" She downed her drink in a single gulp, not even flinching. "I'm just a waiter," Kaelen said. Lyra laughed, a bright sound that grated in the tense room. "Please, I've met enough humans to know a waiter from a soldier. You've got that look." The Vish Jiv, seen dash the dash void dash, and dash it blinked first, look. Kaelen carefully detached his wrist from her grasp. "Enjoy your ale." As he turned, Lyra stood up abruptly, swaying. "Hey, I'm talking to you." She reached out, maybe to grab his shoulder, but her inebriated aim was off. Her fingers snagged the front of his tunic. With a sudden forceful tug, the fabric tore from collar to waist. Buttons scattered across the grimy floor. The tavern went dead silent, exposed on Kaelen's toned chest was an intricate tattoo, a stylized 3-headed black wolf, its eyes glowing red, coiled around a burning star. This wasn't just ink. It was the sigil of the Cerberus Legion, the Empire's most feared and despised elite unit. Lyra's drunken smirk evaporated. Her face, shocked sober, seemed to pale. "Saint's blood," she whispered, her voice trembling. You're one of them. You're a Reaper. Kaelen's hand instinctively flew to cover the mark, but it was far too late. Every eye in the bar was locked on him. The silence was no longer curious. It was hostile. Lyra's eyes met his. In that instant, she understood. She had just signed his death warrant. She stammered, but Kaelen was already moving backward. His eyes scanning the room, mapping exits, identifying threats. The first to move was a hulking Vorg in the corner, drawing a blaster. "Cerberus scum," the reptilian hissed. "Your kind butchered my colony." More weapons appeared. Kaelen's hand dropped to his hip, where a sidearm should have been. "Wait!" Lyra suddenly shouted, stepping between Kaelen and the mob. "This isn't what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like. Kaelen Vos wasn't just a waiter. He was a ghost, a legend, a war criminal. And thanks to a drunk alien's impulsive grab, his cover was blown. The first blaster bolt seared the air past Kaelen's head, so close he felt the heat. Time dilated. His training took over, not the part that knew how to mix drinks, but the lethal part he'd spent 3 years burying. Everyone down. Lyra yelled, but Kaelen was already in motion. He flipped a heavy durasteel table, creating instant cover. In the same fluid movement, he grabbed a bottle from the bar and hurled it at the main light panel. The tavern plunged into near darkness. The Vorg fired again, the bolt going wide as Kaelen rolled. 3 years of peace hadn't made him soft. "Reaper dog," someone screamed. "He'll call his masters." Lyra ducked as a chair sailed over her head. "This is all my fault," she muttered, reaching for the small blaster at her own hip. Before she could draw, Kaelen was beside her, a shadow in the dark. "Don't," he ordered, his voice preternaturally calm. "It'll just make it worse. It's already worse." She hissed back. A massive 4-armed patron charged them. Kaelen pushed Lyra clear and met the charge. The crowd gasped as the human, half. The alien size used a series of lightning-fast strikes to the alien's nerve clusters. The brute collapsed, paralyzed. "Holy stars," Lyra whispered, her eyes wide. "The stories, they're true. We need to go." "Now," Kaelen said, grabbing her arm. They moved toward the back exit as the bar erupted into a full-on brawl. Grath was shouting for order, but the word Reaper had lit a powder keg of fear and hatred. "The Reapers butchered my family on Velox Prime." A thin, pale alien shrieked, lunging with a vibro knife. Kaelen disarmed him with a wrist lock. Careful not to break the fragile bones. "I was never on Velox Prime," he said quietly, but the alien was lost in his rage. Lyra watched him, fascinated. He was surrounded, yet he moved with lethal control, disabling threats without killing. This was not the merciless butcher from the propaganda feeds. They reached the back corridor, Kaelen slamming the door just as a body crashed against it. The passage led to the storage bay and an emergency exit. "You're not what I expected," Lyra said, breathing hard as they ran. "And what did you expect?" Kaelen shot back, his torn tunic flapping open, revealing the damning tattoo. "A monster. The Reapers. Everyone knows what they are. The colony's on—" "I know what they are." Kaelen cut her off, his voice suddenly raw. "I was one of them." They burst out into an alley, the station's artificial twilight casting a sickly glow. "We have to get off station," Kaelen said, scanning. "Someone's already called security. There's a standing bounty on any confirmed Reaper sighting." Lyra stepped closer, her drunkenness completely gone. "I have a ship. Small, fast." The stray light. "Docking Bay 17. Kaelen hesitated, studying her. "Why help me? You just saw what I am." "I saw what you were," she corrected. "And I saw how you fought. You could have killed every being in that bar. You didn't. Besides," she said, her blue fingers brushing over his exposed tattoo, "I'm the one who did this. I owe you." The sound of approaching security sirens grew closer. Kaelen nodded. Lead the way. They navigated the surface tunnels, Lyra moving with the confidence of someone who lived in the shadows. So, she said as they hid behind a cargo container, a Cerberus Reaper, slinging drinks at the void's edge. That's some story, not one I'm telling. But his eyes betrayed him. Lyra's gaze lingered on his chest. I've never been this close to a human before. Your species is rare out here. And your species is usually more careful about ripping clothes off soldiers, Kaelen countered. For the first time, a hint of dark humor touched his voice. The patrol passed. The shared danger, the adrenaline, created a strange current between them. Why a waiter? She asked as they neared Bay 17. I've been, other things. I just wanted quiet. Lyra laughed softly. Well, I really messed that up for you, didn't I? Their eyes met, a spark of recognition passing between two people who were both running from their past. This is me, she said, gesturing to a sleek matte black ship. She's not pretty, but she's fast and her transponder is flexible, a smuggler. Among other things, Lyra grinned, showing her sharp teeth. We all have our secrets, Reaper. As they reached the ramp, blaster fire erupted from the end of the corridor. The hunting party from the bar. Time to go, Kaelen said, pushing Lyra toward the ramp as he turned to face the new threat. The stray light blasted out of the docking bay, its engine screaming as it dodged security vessels. Lyra's hands flew across the console, her piloting a breathtaking display of reckless precision. You're good, Kaelen noted from the co-pilot's seat. Military? Let's just say I've had a lot of practice leaving places in a hurry, she replied, her eyes focused as she punched a hole in the blockade and aligned them for the jump. The stars stretched into blue-white streaks. We're clear. For now, she said, leaning back. Her gaze drifted to his chest. The tattered tunic still hung open, exposing the three-headed wolf. You should find something to wear. I've got spares in the back. Thanks. The cabin was small, efficient. Lyra tossed him a simple black tunic. It stretched tight across his muscular frame, hiding the tattoo but not its presence. I know a place, she said. An outpost in the Orion Expanse. Run by an old contact, Zane. He owes me. Kaelen's face darkened. The Expanse is Imperial territory, outer rim of it. Neutral-ish. It's the last place they'd look for a deserter. She studied him. That's what you are, right? A deserter? Kaelen turned to the viewport, watching the hyperspace tunnel. The Reapers weren't what people think. Not at first. Lyra joined him, standing close. What were they? Peacekeepers. An elite unit trained to stop conflicts, not start them. I joined because I believed in that. What changed? Leadership, orders. His jaw tightened. Velox Prime. That was the end for me. We were told it was a high-level military fortress. It wasn't. It was a civilian colony. Lyra's hand touched his arm. You didn't know? Not until we were on the ground. By then, it was too late. I couldn't stop it. He'd faked his own death in the chaos and had been running ever since. The ship's computer chimed. We're arriving at Zane's outpost, Lyra said, returning to her seat. You trust the Zane? Kaelen asked, his unease growing. As much as I trust anyone. He's never double-crossed me before. The stray light dropped out of hyperspace near a small asteroid-based station. Zane, this is HFY, requesting a bay for a few days, no questions. A gruff voice replied. Lyra, been a while. You still owe me for that job on Centauri. And you still owe me for saving your hide from those bounty hunters, she retorted. Fine, Bay 3 is open. But I want to see you soon as you dock. Got something you might be interested in. As they docked, Kaelen's sense of wrongness intensified. Lyra, something's not right. Reaper instincts tingling? Something like that. Before they disembarked, Lyra turned to him. Listen. What happened in the bar, The shirt. It wasn't a setup. I believe you. The tension that had been humming between them, forged in combat and fueled by his confession, suddenly snapped. She leaned in. Humans are rare. I've always been curious. Kaelen closed the distance, his hand cupping the back of her neck. Their lips met, a kiss that started as a question and quickly deepened, fueled by adrenaline and a strange, powerful chemistry. Her skin was warm, and she tasted of something exotic and sweet. She made a small sound of surprise that melted into something more as they broke apart, both breathing heavily. Well, she said, a little breathless. That answers that. Before Kaelen could reply, the ship's proximity alarm shrieked. The scanner lit up. Imperial ships, Lyra whispered, her face draining of color. Military blockade. How? The heavy thunk of docking clamps vibrated through the hull. They were trapped. Zane, Kaelen said, his voice hard. He didn't trap us. He was the bait. The airlock hissed. 4 Imperial soldiers in full combat gear entered, weapons raised. The Executor is waiting. They were marched to the control room. Zane, a reptilian, was there. Sorry, Lyra. Family comes first. You're not my family, she spat. He was referring to mine. A deep voice resonated from the shadows. A tall Zylithian officer stepped into the light. He had the same blue skin, the same silver hair as Lyra, but his face was weathered, and his uniform bore the insignia of the Imperial High Command. Lyra, he acknowledged. You look well. Cut the crap, father. What is this? The Executor's gaze shifted to Kaelen. Kaelen Voss, the Reaper Ghost. You have been a difficult man to find. Kaelen remained silent. You're not just any man, the Executor continued. You are the only Reaper who filed a formal objection to the Velox Prime operation. The only one with a documented conscience. Lyra looked between them, confused. What are you talking about? The Reapers are your elite butchers. They were peacekeepers, her father snapped, before General Valerius perverted their mission. I opposed him, and it cost me my position. I have been gathering evidence against him ever since. Lyra laughed bitterly. You, a crusader? Is that why you disowned me when I refused to join your precious military? I was protecting you. Her father roared, a flash of real emotion breaking through. If Valerius knew my daughter was a smuggler openly defying Imperial authority, you would have been a target. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Why me? Why now? Kaelen finally asked. The Executor activated a holodisplay. It showed a new massacre. New Horizon colony, human, 3 days ago. The Reapers. His voice was grim. Valerius is escalating. He's trying to start a full-scale war with the human alliance. Kaelen's fists clenched. You need me to testify against him. I need more than that, the Executor said, looking at them both. I need both of you. You, Voss, know how Valerius thinks. And you, Lyra, know the secret smuggler routes he uses to move his shadow assets. You want us ... to help you stop him? Lyra asked, stunned. Yes, before he plunges this entire quadrant into a war that will cost millions of lives. Kaelen and Lyra were given guest quarters. The moment the door sealed, Lyra turned on him. Do you believe a single word of that? About Valerius starting a war? Yes, I saw what he was capable of, Kaelen said. About protecting you by disowning you? I'm not so sure. Lyra sat on the edge of the bed. My father always has an agenda within an agenda. Kaelen sat beside her, the small space making their proximity unavoidable. We need more information before we agree to anything. The shared danger, the revelations, the lingering heat from their kiss on the ship. It all converged. Lyra turned to face him, her blue fingers tracing the outline of his jaw. Earlier, on the ship, we were interrupted. Kaelen caught her hand, turning it over to kiss her palm. I remember. The tension broke. What had started in the bar as a drunken impulse now found its release. Their connection was no longer just curious or adrenalized. It was desperate and deep. Later, as they lay in the dark, Lyra whispered, "He's hiding something. Why track you for 3 years just to ask for help? And why involve me? Smuggling routes aren't essential for a legal case." "We agree to help," Kaelen said, his mind already working. "But on our terms. We need full access to his intel. We need to use your ship, not an Imperial one. And we need his top liaison to come with us." At the meeting, the Executor agreed to their terms, but his eyes were cold. "You will have my full cooperation, and my best officer will accompany you. Lieutenant Zane." Zane, the reptilian who had betrayed them, stepped forward, now in a formal Imperial uniform. "Nothing personal, Lyra." But on the Straylight, as they prepared for the mission, Zane cornered them. "I don't trust the Executor either," the reptilian hissed. "My loyalty is to the Empire, not to one man's ambition. Valeria's is a butcher, but the Executor is a snake. I have my own suspicions. This mission is a front. I will help you find the real truth." Their mission: infiltrate a Reaper shadow base on Axiom 9 to retrieve Valeria's operational plans. The base was ... empty. "It's a trap," Kaelen whispered, just as he located the data core. "Lyra, Zane. Get us out of here. Working on it." Lyra's voice crackled over the comms. Kaelen began the download. That's when the doors to the command center hissed open. It wasn't General Valeria's. It was Executor Nyx, flanked by 6 Reapers in full combat armor. "You set us up," Kaelen stated, his hand moving to his blaster. "You set yourself up, human," Nyx sneered. "Valeria's is a fool, but he was right about one thing. Humanity is a plague. This war is necessary for the survival of our empire. You're working with him." Lyra's voice screamed over the comm. "He's a useful tool to achieve a glorious end. Now give me the data, Reaper, and we will begin." An explosion rocked the base. "That's my cue," Lyra yelled. "Zane is creating a diversion. South airlock, go." Kaelen blasted the console, grabbed the data stick, and ran. He fought his way through the corridors, the base collapsing around him. He saw the Straylight hovering, its ramp down, blaster cannons firing. He made a desperate leap across the vacuum and tumbled into the airlock. "Did you get it?" Lyra yelled, pulling him to his feet. "Everything," he panted. They analyzed the data as they jumped to safety. "Saints ... Lyra whispered. "Kaelen, Zane. Look at this. They're not just starting a war. They're staging a false flag." The data was horrifying. The Executor and Valeria's planned to attack Concord Station, the joint human Zylithian diplomatic hub, using a Reaper squad disguised as human extremists. The attack would shatter the Alliance and give the Executor the mandate he needed to declare total war. "The attack is in 18 hours, Kaelen said, his face grim. "We have to stop them." They split up. Kaelen and Zane, using Zane's Imperial codes, would go to Concord Station to intercept the Reaper bomb squad. Lyra would take the Straylight and confront her father's flagship. "This is suicide," Kaelen said, holding her before they separated. "He's my father. My responsibility," she said, her voice firm. She kissed him hard. "Be careful, you too, blue skin." On Concord Station, Kaelen and Zane moved through the diplomatic gardens. There, Kaelen spotted them 5 Reapers dressed as a maintenance crew. They intercepted them in a service tunnel. The fight was brutal, Reaper versus Reaper, but Kaelen and Zane were a desperate, efficient team. They neutralized the squad and disarmed the explosives. Phase 1 complete, Kaelen cummed. Lyra, what's your status? The cum crackled with alarms and explosions. Having a family disagreement. She yelled. Could use backup. Kaelen and Zane commandeered a station shuttle and flew into the firefight. Lyra was being hammered by her father's cruiser. Kaelen's shuttle provided just enough of a distraction for both ships to board the cruiser's hangar. Took you long enough, Lyra said as Kaelen ran to her side. Traffic was hell, he replied. They stormed the bridge. Executor Nick stood alone, watching them. You've exceeded all my expectations, he said calmly. It's over, father. Lyra yelled. Your plot failed. The Reapers on the station are captured. We've already sent all the data to both the Human Alliance and the Imperial High Command. The Executor's composure finally broke. He snarled, drawing a hidden weapon. But Lyra was faster. Her blaster bolt hit him in the shoulder, sending him staggering. That, she said, her voice cold, is for using me as bait. And for underestimating a human. 1 month later, the Void's edge was unusually quiet. Its patrons watching the live broadcast of the Joint Human-Imperial Tribunal of Executor Nix and General Valerius. Grath was cleaning glasses when the door opened. Kaelen and Lyra walked in, arm in arm. Well, I'll be, Grath rumbled. Didn't think I'd see you two again. Kaelen actually smiled. We decided to come full circle. Back where it all started. Plus, Lyra grinned, slipping her arm around Kaelen's waist. He still owes me a new shirt. They sat at the bar. Grath served them. To new beginnings, Kaelen said, raising his glass. And to ripped shirts, Lyra replied, clinking her glass against his. Their free hands found each other under the bar. What had started with a drunken tear had unraveled an empire-wide conspiracy and stitched two very different lives together. Kaelen and Lyra's adventure might be over. But the universe of FealoriaNexus is just beginning. If you enjoyed this full sci-fi saga, like this video and subscribe for more stories every week. What was your favorite part of their story? Let us know in the comments below.